of February 2026, Steam hardware survey showed that Windows 11 lost more than 10 percentage points of its share among PC gamers in a single month. In January, Windows 11 held roughly 66% of Steam users. By February, that number had dropped to 56%. Windows 10, the operating system Microsoft officially ended support for in October 2025, climbed back up to 40%. A system without security updates is gaining ground on the flagship OS. That tells you something. The February 2026 Steam hardware survey showed Windows 11 at 56.28%, down 10.43 percentage points. Windows 10 was at 40.25%, up 12.46 points. Those swings, over 10 points in either direction in 1 month, are historically unusual. The Steam survey does not move like that under normal conditions. According to TechSpot's analysis of the February data, this is a reversal of the previous trend in which gamers, rather than regular users, had been the ones most actively embracing Windows 11. So what caused the numbers to move this dramatically? The honest answer is, it is complicated, and anyone who tells you it is simple is not giving you the full story. After Windows 10's official support ended in October 2025, people expected a flood of migrations to Windows 11. Instead, the number went down. StatCounter data showed that Windows 11 only became the most popular version of Windows worldwide in June 2025, almost 5 years after its launch. For comparison, Windows 10 reached majority adoption far faster. 5 years to overtake your predecessor on the general market is a slow climb by any measure. In September 2025, Steam had announced that Windows 11 was now the most popular operating system on the platform, considered good news for Microsoft. But in the final months of 2024, Windows 11 had already started sliding, with its market share peaking in October 2024 at 35.58% of all Windows users globally, then dropping to 34.12% by December. Estimates suggest that nearly 400 million Windows 10 users have devices that are hardware incompatible with Windows 11. That is not a rounding error. That is close to 500 million machines that cannot upgrade without new hardware. Full stop. The hardware requirement bottleneck, specifically the requirement for TPM 2.0 and approved CPU models, has locked out a substantial portion of the global user base from upgrading at all. So the resistance to Windows 11 is not purely a matter of preference. For hundreds of millions of people, it is a matter of economics. Buying a new computer just to run a new operating system is not a decision most people make lightly. Market share statistics tell you what happened. But to understand why gamers specifically pushed back, you need to look at what Windows 11 did to their machines. In October 2025, Microsoft pushed update KB 5066835. Shortly after, NVIDIA users began flooding forums with reports of dramatically reduced frame rates. Users who had been running at 120 to 140 frames per second suddenly found themselves at 40 to 70 frames per second on the same hardware, with no changes other than the Windows update. The problem was particularly frustrating to diagnose, because monitoring tools showed everything looking normal, GPU utilization was still reading at 99%, temperatures were fine, but the power draw was far lower than it should have been, with some users finding their GPU consuming about 100 watts less than normal. The cards were being throttled at some level below what the monitoring software could see. Windows 10 users running the same games did not see the same problem. People on Linux and on Steam Deck were also unaffected. The issue was specific to Windows 11 with the October 2025 update on NVIDIA hardware. Microsoft's response was 5 weeks of silence. It was NVIDIA, not Microsoft, that eventually resolved the situation, releasing GeForce Hotfix driver 581.94 on November 19, 2025, specifically to address lower performance observed in some games after updating to Windows 11 October 2025 KB 5066835. Benchmark tests confirmed the fix worked. One set of tests for Assassin's Creed Shadows showed an average of 149.7 frames per second before the NVIDIA hotfix and 202.3 after it. That is a 35% performance improvement from a driver update that existed solely to work around a broken Windows update. And that October 2025 update was not an isolated incident. The May 2025 security update had already triggered performance regression reports. The August 2025 update introduced lag issues affecting both Windows 11 and Windows 10, causing cursor lag during games and other problems. The October update was described as the worst offender, though with some users losing 30 to 50% of their typical frame rates. The mandatory nature of security updates meant users had very limited options. Windows only allows uninstalling updates within 7 to 14 days after installation, leaving those who discovered problems later with no easy rollback path short of a clean OS install from an older image. Then, just as the October damage was being cleaned up, a new one appeared. In early 2026, reports emerged that the January Windows 11 security update was causing further frame drops and graphical artifacting. NVIDIA again investigated, and one representative confirmed on forums that the issue had started after the Windows 11 update. Microsoft again did not immediately acknowledge the problem. Users reported 10 to 20 frame per second losses, with 1% lows, the measure that captures worst-case stutters during gameplay, noticeably worsening. The fix was, once again, uninstalling the Windows update. This is a pattern, not a one-time incident. A recurring cycle where a Windows update breaks gaming performance, Microsoft goes quiet, and then either NVIDIA ships a workaround driver or users manually uninstall the update. It tells gamers that their use case is not a priority in the testing and release process. When Microsoft launched Windows 11 in October 2021, the core argument to gamers was straightforward. This is a better operating system for gaming. Direct storage, a technology that allows games to load assets directly from storage to the GPU, bypassing the CPU, was a headline feature. Auto HDR, which automatically enhances the visual quality of older games, was another. Microsoft's marketing leaned hard on the idea that upgrading was not just a software change, but a performance advantage. The hardware requirements, the strict CPU lists, the TPM 2.0 module requirement, were framed as being about security and next-generation readiness. The message was, make the jump, and you will be on a more secure, more capable platform designed for the future of PC gaming. The 24H2 update from December 2024 managed to break Auto HDR and cause game crashes outright, severe enough that Microsoft halted the rollout of that update entirely. One of the flagship gaming features of Windows 11, the feature that was part of the original sales pitch, was broken badly enough to require a rollback. And the same October 2025 update that tanked frame rates also broke localhost for developers, triggered BitLocker recovery loops on some machines, and disabled the File Explorer preview pane. Microsoft's transition from annual to monthly feature updates, marketed internally as continuous innovation, meant less testing time and faster shipping cycles. The tension here is real. Monthly updates allow Microsoft to ship fixes and improvements more frequently, but they also compress the testing window, and when something goes wrong, it goes wrong for hundreds of millions of people simultaneously. In an indication of the ongoing problems, a security update in late 2025 caused performance in games like Assassin's Creed Shadows to drop by 50%, not 5%, not 10%. If you are currently running Windows 11 and gaming without issues, the February Steam numbers are not a reason to panic. The survey swing is partially a statistical artifact, and the underlying platform still works for most users most of the time. If you are a gamer still on Windows 10, the picture is more nuanced. Windows 10 reached its official end of support in October 2025, meaning Microsoft is no longer providing free security updates for most users. Running an unsupported operating system online carries genuine security risk over time. That is not fear-mongering, it is straightforward security reality. The options for Windows 10 users are basically these. Upgrade to Windows 11 if your hardware supports it. Pay Microsoft for extended security updates if you are in a business context. Now install Windows 11 on unsupported hardware using unofficial methods, which Microsoft does not endorse, or consider an alternative operating system like Linux. One thing that often gets overlooked in these discussions is why the Steam hardware survey exists in the first place. Valve runs the survey to collect data about the hardware and software their customers are using, describing the gathered information as incredibly helpful for making decisions about technology investments and which products to offer. This data is not just trivia for tech journalists. It directly informs which DirectX features game developers can target, what minimum system requirements are reasonable, and where Valve invests its own infrastructure work. When Windows 11's numbers drop significantly on Steam, it sends a signal to developers about what their player base is actually running. And when Windows 10 is still on 40% of gaming PCs despite being officially unsupported, that is a message that the migration to Windows 11 is incomplete and slower than Microsoft's marketing would suggest. In the same February 2026 survey, simplified Chinese became the most popular language on the platform, and the RTX 5070 suddenly jumped to become the most popular GPU, increasing its share from under 3% to 9.42% in a single month. Analysts noted that the unusual scale of changes across multiple categories in the same month suggests something changed in the survey's methodology or sample pool, not just user behavior. Forenix noted that Linux gaming share also dropped significantly in the same survey, which typically happens when Chinese language users surge in the data, a known sampling quirk that Valve has acknowledged and corrected before. So the February numbers are real data with real limitations. The direction of the trend, Windows 11 losing ground, Windows 10 holding on longer than expected, reflects something genuine. But the precise magnitude of the February drop is almost certainly distorted by the sampling anomaly, and it would be irresponsible to treat the 10-point figure as a literal reflection of 1 month's user behavior. Whether Microsoft changes course will determine whether the February numbers are a warning sign that was heeded or the beginning of a longer, slower decline in gaming credibility. For now, the Steam survey has given Microsoft something valuable, a clear public signal of how its gaming audience feels. What they do with it is the next chapter.